Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the City of Farmers Branch regular City Council meeting. It is Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. The time is 6:01 p.m. As you can see, we have Councilmember Ratana and Driscoll joining us from Zoom, and unfortunately, Councilmember Baumgartner won't be here. He had a situation he had to deal with, and we send him our best and well wishes. And next up is our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilmember Norwood. If you all stand.
Please pray with me. Almighty Father, we thank you for all the blessings that we have in our country, in our state, and in our city. And we ask that you would just be with us tonight, that you would help us to have hearts that are full of compassion, ears that can hear every side of an issue, and minds that are clear and can make wise decisions. We lift up especially Mike Baumgartner tonight, and that you might be with him and comfort him in his time of trial. We thank you so much for everything you've done for us, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Next up is our ceremonial items. E1 is a presentation of the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award and Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. So, Sherelle, if you and your team want to come on up. The Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA, of the United States and Canada has presented an award of Distinguished Budget Presentation to the City of Farmers Branch for its 2019-20 budget, and an award of Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the City's 2019 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. The GFOA programs were instituted to encourage all government units to prepare and publish easy, readable, and understandable financial documents covering all funds and financial transactions of the government during the year. The GFOA believes that governments have a special responsibility to provide to the public with a fair presentation of their financial affairs. These financial reports go beyond the requirements of generally accepted accounting principles to provide the many users of governmental financial statements with a wide variety of information useful in evaluating the financial condition of a government. Bond rating agencies favorably consider these awards during the credit evaluation process. This is the 23rd consecutive year that the city has received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, the 31st consecutive year for receiving the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. These awards represent a significant achievement by Farmers Branch and reflect the commitment of the City Council and City Administration to meet the highest principles of governmental budgeting, accounting, and financial reporting. One of our heavier ones. They made it when Charles first started. This is the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Presentation Award presented to the City of Farmers Branch, Texas, with 2019 and 2020. And we also have the Government Financial Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting presented to the City of Farmers Branch for 2019. And Sherelle will probably speak more to this, but on behalf of the City Council and definitely the staff, Sherelle and her team do a tremendous job. Not only planning for each year, but taking care of a lot of the day-to-day operations that keep our city running in terms of making sure people are paid, making sure staff is paid, but also just all the checks and balances that are required to make sure that our city is operating as efficiently as it always does. And so without your leadership and without your team's leadership, we wouldn't be in such a great position that we are. So just want to extend our thanks to you and all your efforts. And even as you have to, bring in new staff, implement a new system, and do all that, you're still able to continue and outperform and I guess just keep the spirit of excellence in our region. So thank you.
I want to say thank you. I haven't had an Orthodox career, and I've wanted more than anything to have your respect. The first time I didn't feel it, but now I can feel it. I can't deny the fact that you like me. Right now, you really like me. And scene. The truth is, I always wanted to say those words from a podium while receiving an award. The truth is, it sounded way better coming from Sally Field as she accepted the Academy Award in 1984 for her portrayal in the movie Places in the Heart. The truth is that awards like tonight aren't about me. While the film industry can award individual performances, these two awards from GFOA are about the team. While Sally's Oscar was the result of her role in a movie called Places in the Heart, I can tell you that the finance team has received the Distinguished Budget Award for the 23rd consecutive year and the Financial Reporting Award for the 35th consecutive year, and this team has absolutely been operating from places in their heart and delivering those results. Places in our heart that allow us to follow sound business controls and policies to make sure that the city's financial assets are safeguarded. Places in our hearts that allow us to push through and work late hours when needed. And places in our heart that allow for the financial reporting and ensuring that all of our city's financial resources are continued to be safeguarded. I want to thank our entire finance team, past and present, and commend them on a job well done. I want to give a special thanks to Jeanette Naranja and Pamela DeHaan, who are joining me tonight, two of our finance team members who work and go the extra mile to make sure that we continue to exude this level of financial excellence. Please make sure that you give them a special thanks, a socially distant fist bump or elbow bump to say thank you for their hard work. My name is Sherelle Evans-Jones, and I am proud to serve as the Director of Finance for the City of Farmers Branch and leading this fantastic team to this level of excellence on a continued basis. Thank you to the Mayor and City Council. Thank you, Charles, for your continued guidance and leadership. And with that, I conclude my attempt at acting.
Next is E2, a presentation of the 2021 Witness to History Award to Marshall's Barbecue. So I know Tony DeLuey and her husband Rob are here. Great name, by the way. If you all want to come up, let me do so. So at the November 12, 2020 Historical Preservation and Restoration Board meeting, the board voted unanimously to recognize Marshall's Barbecue with the Witness to History Award. This award was created to recognize longtime Farmers Branch residents and/or organizations that have contributed to the city of Farmers Branch in an outstanding manner. To qualify for the Witness to History Award, an individual must reside in Farmers Branch for 50 years or more, and an organization must be active for 50 years or more. In addition, award winners are selected based on their significant contribution to the city. Marshall's Barbecue has been active since 1965, when Charles Marshall opened the restaurant. The family-owned establishment still operates with the same care and ideals that Charles set forth. They endeavor to provide their customers with warm welcomes and great Texas barbecue. Marshall's is dedicated to preserving traditions. Their food, Charles's recipes, and his attention to detail are a piece of Texas that they still strive to pass on to the next generation. The environment at Marshall's enhances quality family time and business networking in the heart of Farmers Branch. Marshall's Barbecue is a restaurant that helps make Farmers Branch an outstanding city by providing strong and ongoing support to the entire community. And so I just want to say congratulations. Growing up in this town, we ate at Marshall's all the time, and my friends, every time they come back to Farmers Branch from out of town, it's the first place we go. So, you know, it's not just what you provide to our community in terms of a place for our families to go and share experiences. It's what you also do in our community, the way you support our organizations, the city, our nonprofits. You know, you're just a true example of what business should be. And so I couldn't be more honored to present you with this award, and, you know, just thank you for continuing to believe and stay at Farmers Branch. The Farmers Branch City Council and the Historical Preservation and Restoration Board recognize Marshall's Barbecue as the 2021 recipient of the Farmers Branch Witness to History Award, March 2021.
Thank you, Mayor Dye. I would like to thank the City Council for this award. We are honored to receive an award that acknowledges growth, strength, and longevity. Marshall's Barbecue has been a witness to history over 55 years, and we are proud to be a part of this great city. A special thanks to the city for providing meals during the COVID for their essential workers. That really helped us out. We appreciate that, and they built a very nice outdoor patio for us that beautifies the whole parking lot and really has helped out a lot during the COVID eating outside only time. The city has been a big supporter of ours all these years, different mayors, different council members, but we appreciate all the help. You were one of the first ones that came into our office and said, we're at a crisis here last year, and we'll do anything to support that. So I want to thank Kim for setting this up back there. She does a lot of good work at the historical park, and we book parties together. We had a wedding last weekend. It was really nice. I want to also thank Linda Clark. She's been ordering thousands of lunches for us, for the community, and so we appreciate all that. It's really helped out. It made our situation turn a corner there, and knew we had the support of the city. So thank you very much for this award.
Next is item F, our report on study session items, which will be led by Councilmember Norwood.
Thank you, Mayor. As those of you that watch these meeting presentations regularly, you know that I always enjoy doing this part. I try to keep them light and I try to keep them very short. So I remind everybody that you can look at the full video of the study session and get all the details that you might need from this. So we had 5 items. The first item was we always review regular city items, and no one had anything except for Councilmember Lynn, who noted that on the last agenda's minutes, his ideas for future items were omitted. So I'm now jumped to number 5, which is future items, and Councilmember Lynn gave us his 4 items to put on the future list. In item 2, we had a presentation from the North Central Texas Council of Governments about a proposed rail line that they're studying. So it's just in early stages that would start at Irving in the south, actually run through Farmers Branch and Carrollton all the way up to Salina. And so since Farmers Branch would be a part of that rail line, they wanted to make us cognizant of what was going on. Most of the questions that we had revolved around who would fund this, how would it be funded, but it's so early days that a lot of those decisions haven't been made yet. So they'll keep us posted in the future. A3, we reviewed our critical business outcomes. We added a couple of outcomes this year. One of them that I wanted to highlight was on communication with the community. We always get dinged on that we're not publicizing things, we're not giving enough information, when in fact we overemphasize, we overpush. We put it in your water bill, we put it on Twitter, we put it on Facebook, we send things around, we put signs out and flash in the community, but people still aren't getting it. So we're looking at various initiatives that would provide more information, like a 311 app, where you would have it at your fingertips and be able to communicate with the city and receive information back. So that's one of our critical business outcomes for next year. You can get the rest by looking at the video. And then finally, A4, probably the most interesting piece of this was we discussed the city's policy with respect to wearing masks. Now look out, everybody's got a mask. Right, and as you may or may not be aware, the city recently relaxed the requirement in conjunction with the governor's order and went to a recommended mask wearing in city facilities. So we had a robust discussion on that. There was opinions and differences both ways. It was it finally had to come down to an official roll call vote, and it passed 3-2. So it was a split vote that the city would retain the more restrictive policy of masks being required in all city facilities. So to get the total gist of that conversation and who voted for what, you'll have to go to the video. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Councilmember Norwood. Next is the city manager's report on items of community interest.
Thank you, Mayor. The Branch Connection reopened March the 15th with modified hours and programming. All returning seniors must have verification of a COVID vaccination administered at least 2 weeks prior to returning to the center. Masks and social distancing are still required. The city still needs volunteers who are registered voters interested in serving the community. Applications are now being accepted for candidates to serve on a city board or commission, including the Mansky Library Board, the Parks and Recreation Board, the Planning and Zoning Board, and the Senior Advisory Board. The application deadline is May the 1st. Learn more at fbboards.com or call 972-919-2515. In an effort to assist homeowners affected by the late February freeze, the city has adopted a one-time policy of reducing March water bills for those who experienced burst pipes due to the excessive cold. The process will only apply to customers who realized a 30% or more increase in their water bill, and only if they can produce documentation that the leak has been repaired. If both requirements are met, a bill will be reduced to reflect the same amount charged in March of 2020. Additionally, no water disconnects will occur through March 31st in order to allow customers to recover from recent events. Customer service can be reached at 972-919-2525 or found on the first floor at City Hall. The Farmers Branch Parks Department will introduce its new free concert series, Denton Drive Live, scheduled the second Saturday of every month between April and September, beginning at 6 p.m. at the Farmers Branch Historic Park. The first open-air concert is set for Saturday, April the 10th. Masks will be required while attending the events for ages 10 and up and are to be worn at all times except within your social circle. For a complete listing of dates and bans, please visit DentonDriveLive.com. And finally, you can sign up for e-news at farmersbranchtx.gov to have current city news and information delivered directly to your email box. And with that, Mayor, that's the City Manager's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Next is citizen comments. Citizens' comments is your opportunity to address the City of Farmers Branch elected officials directly about issues that are important to you and your community, but there's a process that must be followed. Speaker request forms will be accepted by the City Secretary from the time the agenda is posted up to 30 minutes prior to the regular meeting. Individuals will not be recognized to speak during the meeting unless this form has been submitted. There is a 3-minute time limit for each citizen to speak, with a reasonable limitation on speakers for one topic or item, with a maximum of 15 total minutes on the same topic. Anyone wishing to speak shall be courteous and cordial. No disparaging or inflammatory remarks directed at any member of the City Council or staff will be allowed. Tonight we have one person signed up to speak, Omar Roman. Name and address, please.
Omar Roman, 2001 Whittington Place. Good afternoon. I would like to follow up on my question from the last City Council meeting regarding the citizen comment policy that was enacted this year. Mr. Mayor, you said you would answer my question and spoke about how the citizen comment policy was created and its intent. I apologize if I was unclear in my question, but my question is, can you please provide clear guidelines on this new citizen comment policy so that us citizens can understand how we may comply with it? This includes how long we have to speak for citizen comments, consent agenda, public hearing, and regular agenda items, whether one or multiple forms are needed for different agenda items, and whether the council would consider a more streamlined process for signing up to speak. And then lastly, my last question is, I had somebody who was wanting to speak and was unable to find a form in Spanish, and so I would, given the population of Spanish speakers in the city, I think they'd appreciate having that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next is our consent agenda. And before we get to our consent agenda, we have someone signed up to speak to I-1, I-2, I-3, I-4, and I-5. Mr. Omar Roman, would you like to address the council regarding any of these items on the consent agenda? And if you can let me know which ones you'd like to speak to, I will allocate your time accordingly.
Okay. How much time do I have?
You'll have 3 minutes per item.
Okay. I don't have any questions at this moment, but I wish the best of luck for the people who are taking advantage of the revitalization efforts that you guys have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I will look for a motion to...
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion by Councilmember Lynn. Second by Councilmember Driscoll. Do we have any more discussion? I'll do a roll call. Councilmember Norwood.
Aye.
Councilmember Lynn.
Aye.
Councilmember Ratana.
Aye.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Next is item J, our public hearings. J1, ordinance 3683, conduct a public hearing and consider and adopting ordinance number 3683 for a specific use permit and associated detailed site plan amendment for a banquet hall or event center, including a new retail building on an approximate 1.69 acre property located at 3380 Beltline Road, and take appropriate action. Ms. Senna.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Shrupa Sen, Senior Planner. So the subject property is shown on the aerial map with this green boundary. It's 3800 Beltline Road, zoned local retail 2. The subject property has a building, a 15,000 square foot commercial building with 1-800 Flowers and Christie's Banquet Hall. The request is for an SUP amendment for the Christie's Banquet Hall event center. So the request is twofold. First of all, they are ready to build the second retail shell building, which is going to be about 11,600 square foot retail shell building, along with a 2,263 square foot outdoor patio. And the second part of the amendment is the applicant has requested to remove the valet parking requirement from their existing SUP ordinance. Getting into the details of what is being changed or proposed for the change, the original SUP ordinance had this current site plan attached and made part of the ordinance, which is on the left side of your screen, and on the right side of your screen is the proposed site plan. As you can see, the main difference is that they are now requesting a larger retail shell building, which is used to be in the first site plan, it was about 10,800 square feet. Now they're requesting 11,600 square foot building. The original site plan has a much smaller outdoor patio towards Belline Road. Now they're requesting a much larger, about 2,000 square foot outdoor patio. The building has also been pushed farther towards the property line, towards the west and south. So from a site and layout standpoint, those are the main changes that are being requested. Other than that, there are minor changes to the landscape plan as outlined in the staff report. These are some of the site photos showing the existing building, the 1-800 Flowers business towards the top photo, and these photos showing the Christie's Banquet Hall. The second part of the amendment request involves the valet parking requirement that was originally stipulated in the SUP ordinance. The applicant has requested removal of that provision because historically they had 66 events since 2015 when the SUP was originally adopted, where they had more than 100 people in the attendance, but they never had to use the off-site parking or valet parking for events held in this address. Also, from operational standpoint, the applicant has stated that he has made operational changes in terms of he has made sure that the events are not held on the same days when you have like Mother's Day or Valentine's Day, where the 1-800 Flowers business would have more capacity for parking or would require more parking. So that's a conscious operational change. Also, they have stated that even though the event center has more capacity for holding like 200, 300 people, but they are hosting events with much less attendees. Besides that, you might recall that the recent CZO parking amendment allowed less requirement for banquet hall or CZO or banquet hall or this kind of facilities. So now the site is fully compliant with required off-street parking on site itself. So the existing venue as well as the proposed retail building complies with parking requirements, and in staff opinion, they can remove, or it's appropriate to remove the valet parking requirement from the SUP ordinance. So that's all I have for my presentation tonight. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer, and the applicant is present here as well.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you.
Councilmember Norwood, do you have any questions for staff?
I do. So we recently revised the ordinance on parking for the city, and we noted that there was many options for parking. Some of them included off-site parking. So I spoke with Councilmember Baumgartner earlier today, so I kind of understand his thinking on this, but I understood that after the new building goes in, there's only going to be like 78 parking spots?
73.
73 parking spots. So even if you had 3 people per car, that's still a lot less than the 300 max capacity. I understand that they haven't had any smaller or larger events lately, but it doesn't preclude larger events from happening in the future. So I understand if we are saying valet parking, and that it means that I have to have an attendant, I have to have a key kiosk, I have to have people to drive the cars around. I understand if we want to relieve of that, but I think we need to have something to accommodate the 300 potential, the capacity of this revised and expanded banquet hall. So I think they work with the building materials supplier, store across the street, and use that in the off hours. I guess I'm okay with that, but I'd like something in there that says, you know, that if it exceeds a certain capacity, then they need to accommodate off-site parking.
Just to clarify, if I understood you right, also they are not really increasing the capacity of the banquet hall though. So the banquet hall, nothing is being changed in terms of the square footage or the area or the capacity of the banquet hall. So what they are trying to establish is that historically, even though the banquet hall has the capacity to hold that many people, they have never really had an event to have that amount of capacity, and they never had to use, even though they have a off-site parking agreement with the surplus warehouse building next door, they never had to use it. They had only used it once in the past 5 years, or more than 5 years, even though they had 66 such events. And the other aspect of the CZU amendment, which made them fully compliant on site, is we are trying to put the onus on the applicant. When our goal on reducing the parking ratio or the minimum required parking was to make sure that the applicant is the best known entity in this example who would know, okay, if they can't park their customers or their tenants, they won't be able to lease the building. So from that standpoint, as per the applicant as well as the ratio as it stands now, they have enough parking on site. However, with the amendment, they also have room to ask for off-site parking if need be. But I understand if council would like to still keep that requirement, that's up to council.
Just a couple of quick points. So, like they say in finance, like past returns are not, or past performance is not a guarantee of future returns, right? So just because it hasn't happened up to this point doesn't mean it will. I think, if I remember right, it's really hazy. I think this came up like 5 years ago, maybe.
2015.
Yeah, and so the concern was that parking overflow onto the public street, right? And so we're trying to get the parking moved to somewhere in a consistent fashion. So I guess I'm not hard over on the valet requirement, but if it hasn't been a problem up to this point, I'm not sure why we need it to pull it out now. Especially when they have so many options for, you know, bringing people to the event by Uber or, you know, parking them across the street and making them walk across. So what's driving the valet requirement?
Tina Ferguson's Director of Planning. You know, I wasn't here when the valet parking requirement was established, but my guess is that there was some concern regarding the potential for larger event sizes, and so ensuring that adequate on-site parking was provided. If they did not have enough parking on-site, then arrangements were made for off-site parking. I know the applicant is here, and they could speak in greater detail to their events and how they've managed to control the parking in that aspect. You know, you're right. Their past events doesn't always necessarily dictate how they move forward, but I think in any case, with parking being provided, regardless if it's this site or any other site, you know, as Shrupa mentioned, one of the reasons why we amended the parking requirements was to be able to accommodate infill development as well as to be able to address adaptive reuse of properties. Because of our goals on trying to reutilize existing buildings, also trying to reduce the amount of stormwater runoff and not having a lot of parking paved on a site that is otherwise predominantly going unused. So the challenge is, you know, finding that right balance. If the applicant finds that they're hosting events where they do not have enough parking available, then they're not going to be successful longer term, because word's going to get around that, well, hey, you know, it's probably particular on social media, hey, I've hosted my event at this particular location. They did not have enough parking on the site. Don't rent this facility, things like that. You know, that starts to kind of self-regulate and take care of itself. So trying to find that magic number and what's that right balance. You know, in this case, I think, you know, we have an applicant who has demonstrated performance and can speak to council and how they plan to manage any potential parking challenges should that come about. So reminder, you know, the comprehensive zoning ordinance that establishes the minimum, but it really shifts that burden to the applicant to make sure that they're providing enough parking to be able to meet their business needs.
Okay, well, I'm assuming the applicant will come up at a certain time. I'll just yield my time here to see if anybody else has any concerns about it at all.
Councilmember Lund, any questions for staff?
Thank you. So last week I went over to this building to get a better understanding firsthand of what is going on. I met with Mr. Cuevas took me on a tour, showed me exactly what he was going to be doing, and it helped give me a better understanding of why the valet parking is really not useful at this point to his business. The other thing is, in the event that he needs additional space, and legally, I guess according to the ordinance, he is within compliance, because you say right here, he is within compliance with the 73 spots that he has. However, if he needs overflow parking, he's got a relationship with his next door neighbor who allows them to park at night because they're not in business at night. So I don't find that to be any issue in terms of not being able to accommodate or folks parking on the street. And I'm trying to remember if there was actually a no parking sign on the street. Yes. So that should not be an issue, because it doesn't state a time. It's just no parking on the street. So having been there, seen it, walked the property with him, I believe that he is in ample compliance, and especially if he's got a good relationship with his neighbor to be able to park any type of overflow next door, which would not be on the street. So thank you. I don't have any questions about this, and thank you, Mr. Cuevas, for wanting to reinvest in the city.
Councilmember Ratana.
I don't have any questions or, well, really the only concern I had was the parking, but then, you know, in being very familiar with these facilities, I mean, it would, to your point, Tina, I think the onus would be on them to ensure that they are able to secure additional parking. Otherwise, their customers are going to get towed, and then it's just going to be, you know, a downhill from there. So I'll defer to staff on that piece, but no other questions or concerns on my end.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Yes. My greatest concern is also on the parking, and I would like to hear maybe from the owner, the applicant, why we would need to remove the valet requirement. And I can appreciate when they say, well, in the past, they've not needed to exceed their parking except for one event, but I think anyone in entertainment and you know, these types of businesses is looking to grow their business. And so it could become an issue down the road, and you know, Beltline is very busy, and Enterprise, that area is more kind of industrial, and so that's kind of my concern when they advertise, you know, for having events up to 300 or more people. 73 parking spots would go pretty quickly. And secondly, you know, a lot of small business owners, for one reason or another, at some point sell their business to someone else. So someone else might own this a couple of years down the road and want to have big venues and big events there. So I think something like a little more clarity on.
Okay. All right. Will the applicant please come forward? His name and address, please.
Jose Cuevas, 3380 Bethlehem Road, Farmers Branch, Texas 75234. So, which question do you want to clarify first? Why I'm here as far as the valet parking or traffic?
The only thing I want to
violations?
clarify is, you know, it just sticks out. So if valet parking has never been an issue, then why are we so concerned with removing it right now? And I think Councilman Driscoll brought up a good issue that if you happen to move or if you happen to sell your business, then someone else could come in, and it does become an issue. And so I'm just trying to figure out what's the thinking on that, and if it's not been an issue in the past, then it's not going to be an issue in the future. So leaving it in makes no difference.
Yes.
If you can move the microphone up just a little bit.
Yes, I can address in many ways this issue. The fact is, let's talk about consistency. There is no other venue, as far as I know, here in Farmers Branch, is required to have a valet parking. And they're also in the streets. So I will ask the council to consider that. The consistency as far as requiring my facility to have valet parking. Now, as far as the need for valet parking, the only 66 instances I have events. You count those, divide that in 5 years, that's not that many events. How many events is that a year? Not that many. For being an event center, I need at least 32 events a year to be financially appropriate to run a business. Now, it comes down to understanding the business. First of all, the valet parking is required when there is danger in the streets, or there's not much traffic at the time there is an event. Besides, you read also my SUP, you can see there's police officers, Farmers Branch police officers, at least one of them every time. Not only checking the customers that come there, but the guests, but also checking the traffic. And believe me, there is no traffic about that time in Enterprise. Now, the instance I have more than overflow traffic, I have working people and my staff at 100 Flowers also parked there. So the people working at 100 Flowers plus the guests that came to visit for the party created the problem I have. Now, that was a rocky mistake I make. I learned from it, and it won't happen again. So, to me, is a non-issue, but also the fact that the police officers are there. They're armed police officers. They know the area, so they will have well control of the area. So I don't believe that will be a need on the need of valet parking. And more important, as a business owner for an event center, I have to be competitive. I have to be competitive with the other event centers around me. They are not required to have a valet parking, and therefore, they don't have to charge extra $500 to customers. Believe me, $500, $100, $50 makes a difference. And maybe that's why I only have 12 events a year. Besides COVID last year that I have barely one. So it's financially, I have police officers in the SUP, you can read it, it's there, more than 100, I had 2 full police officers, and also I had to ask the councilman as far as the SUP requirements I have in my own event center that are not required for the other event centers. There are other event centers around me that they don't require the police officers, 2 of them, to be there. The hours I have until 1 o'clock in the morning and valet parking. So that's all I have to say.
I have one more question for you. So you mentioned other event centers, and we have several on the east side, right around off of Midway, and they are allowed to stay open until 2 a.m. Your SUP limits you to what, 1 a.m. is?
That's correct.
Would you rather have it 2 a.m.?
Of course.
Okay, then I think.
That's exactly my point before, consistency.
Yeah, but it didn't come in that way, right? So I think we should adjust the SUP to be consistent across. What do you say, Tina?
Excuse me just a minute. So regarding the hours of operation, right now, Mr. Cuevas has till 1 a.m. The reason why he has that is because that was what was originally negotiated in his original specific use permit. If you recall, 2 weeks ago, we amended the banquet hall event center provisions. So everywhere in town, except for the entertainment overlay district, actually only has till midnight now. So within the entertainment overlay district, they have till 2 a.m. So we did not change his hours of operation and push them back till 12 a.m. because of the fact that he had the existing specific use permit and because of some potential vested rights there. So anybody new coming in elsewhere in the city that's outside the entertainment overlay district, he does have a slight advantage because he can stay open until 1 a.m., but everywhere else, we left it at midnight. Except in the entertainment overlay district, which is 2 a.m.
Thank you, Tina. Now I'm back on track, so thanks.
Okay, thank you.
As a matter of fact, that's a good clarification because I was kind of upset in that sense that when I started looking at the standards for new event centers, I said, I'm sorry, but that was singled out.
Well, I'll tell you that, so we talk about event centers every meeting. So we do it, I mean, this is like the 4th or 5th, 6th meeting that we've talked about event centers. So I hope this is the last and I hope you get what you want, so thank you.
But then you understand about this thing about valet parking though. The fact that affects my pricing in order to provide it to
I hear you.
customers.
You swayed me. I'm with you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Lynn.
I was going to add to that, we don't have a valet requirement for the other establishments, especially over on the east side. So I think that in itself is an undue burden. If during this time of COVID, so many businesses have dropped valet parking because you're just coming in contact with somebody else's vehicle, and owners of vehicles don't want anybody else coming in contact with their own vehicle. And then the last point I wanted to make is in the event business, pennies add up quickly, and people will take their business elsewhere to save $1, believe it or not. And so when he's forced to have valet parking, that is a cost that's passed on to the client. And that could make a difference between somebody utilizing his facility versus some other facility, possibly in another city. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rotana.
No questions.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Cuevas, for your explanation. And I can appreciate what you're saying about having, 1 or 2 or 3 policemen on duty when you have larger events, but that's not really the issue. And to my thinking, the police officers there provide extra security and other, eyes and ears, et cetera, what's going on. But I still don't understand why, if in the past the valet parking has not been an issue except one time over 5 years, why is it suddenly an obstacle now?
What do you mean an obstacle?
Well, that you're asking us to remove that requirement.
I guess you missed the part that is a financial issue to me to address to my customers, as Council Member Lane explained to all of you. A penny will make a difference for a customer to either sign with a contract with me or go to Harry Hines and sign with another event center. So it's a financial issue, and also I don't see the need, based on the fact that I have multiple, 65 events, that we have plenty of traffic and plenty of parking, and there hasn't been an issue. And you can ask, as a matter of fact, police officers from Farmers Branch if they have any issue with traffic or overflow or parking. I guess you have to be familiar with the city of Farmers Branch, and my location in particular, because there's plenty of space to park.
Well, I am familiar with that area and those buildings. My question is just, if you've only had one event that was so large, you required the valet, and I can appreciate your situation as a businessman. You want to have more events and you want to have more profitability. I'm not opposed to that. That's wonderful. I encourage that. But it seems to me that you're planning to have larger events, or you wouldn't be asking to have this requirement removed.
I will clarify to you, though, that I didn't have one event that it was overflow. I have 2 businesses in the same building. One is 1-800-Flowers in the front, so you're familiar with it. Beltline Road, that's 1-800-Flowers facing Beltline Road. Now, Christie's Banquet Hall is facing Enterprise Road. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so keeping that in mind, my business during particular seasons, and you will understand Valentine's, Mother's Day, I need staff there to stay late and work to get ready for those days that they are very heavy as far as volume. At the same time, I have an event signed for the same weekend. Big mistake. So I have people coming for the event in Christie's Banquet Hall, and I have my own staff, which could be up to 45 people working in my facility. So those 45 people, they all bring their own vehicle to the location. They don't come multiple people in one vehicle. It's more just every single person bring their own vehicle. So right there, I have 45 people, or less, let's say at least 20 people, individuals using each space. Minimize the ability to park for the people coming for the event center. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that was a mistake I make as a business owner. I control both facilities, 1-800 Flowers and Christie's Banquet Hall. It hasn't happened again. So I don't have a problem with the valet parking because I don't have problems with parking spaces because I don't plan to rent the facility during that weekend that I have a lot of business on 1-800 Flowers as a business. Therefore, I have the capacity, the ability to park all those cars in the location. Now, it has been an issue. Yes, there has been a need also because nobody uses the valet parking. So I have to charge the customers at least $500 for the valet parking booth, valet parking staff, and especially now with the COVID-19, the CDC prohibited for us to have the valet parking.
Mr. Driscoll, do you have anything else?
No, I understand it, and I've been a customer at your 800 Flowers. I know the area well, and but I mean, just the numbers you were talking about on that unfortunate weekend, you had 45 of the spaces taken of the 73.
Yeah.
By employees, you're really short on parking. So, my concern is just if you have larger events and are more successful.
I am limited as far as the number of people I can have. They are coming for an event, a party. Therefore, they come in a family in one vehicle, 2 or 3 at least. So it minimized the number of vehicles needed to park in the location. And again, there's plenty of parking. There's no sign in the street, no parking in the street, so they won't be able to park in the streets. Therefore, they can certainly use the parking facilities in the neighborhood businesses that allow us to park there, because we also send customers there. It's a business-to-business relationship.
All right. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, thank you. Hold on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, and so we have one person signed up to speak, Mr. Omar Roman. Name and address, please.
Omar Roman, 2001 Whittington Place. I did have a few questions, but throughout the discussion of multiple council members, I think all of them have already been resolved, so I don't have anything further to add, and I don't want to waste anybody's time. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So with that, do you have anything else to add? Councilman Lynn, I know you want to make a point.
Yeah, I'd like to, with all due respect to Councilman Driscoll, it doesn't matter if he wants to have bigger events or not. Even if he has an event with 20 people, he still has to provide valet parking. It's a undue burden or cost that for the volume of events that he does is being passed on to customers when they could be spending that money on something else. If he doesn't have the volume of vehicles there and he is legally, by ordinance, properly spaced, then we shouldn't have this, or we should not require him to take this undue step of having to supply valet parking, because it's an expense that is just costing people money and not being used.
Thank you. Councilmember Tano, do you have anything final to add? Councilmember Driscoll?
No, I have no interest in the debate. I had questions and asked for clarification, and my answers were satisfied.
Okay. Well, then with that, I will look for a motion to close the public hearing and take action.
Mayor, I move to close the public hearing and approve or adopt ordinance number 3683.
I have a motion by Councilmember Lynn,
Second.
second by Councilmember Ratana. Any more discussion? Councilmember Norwood,
Aye.
Councilmember Lynn,
Aye.
Councilmember Ratana,
Aye.
Councilmember Driscoll. Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Next is K1. Consider approving resolution number 2021-020, adopting the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2020, as submitted by BKD LLP, and take appropriate action. Ms. Evans-Jones, award winner.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. My name is Sherelle Evans-Jones, Director of Finance, and I'm pleased to report on the conclusion of our fiscal year ended September 30th, 2020 audit. Presented in your packet is a draft of the comprehensive annual financial report, which I will refer to as the financial report or the audited financial statements. As I stated during my comments during the ceremonial, these audits don't come together without a great team. And I want to thank the entire finance team for all of your diligence in maintaining the process, maintaining good financial process throughout the year. I want to give a special thank you to Pamela DeHaan, who is with us tonight, and Suzanne Pritchard for the enormous amount of work that these two in particular put into the project. I also want to say a special thanks to our retired controller, Maeve Strong, because she had a great hand in developing a lot of our financial records that withstood or that were the subject of audit. The financial report was audited by the accounting firm of BKD and represents the first year that the city's results were audited by that firm. Joining us tonight is Mr. Danny Martinez. He is a managing director with BKD, and he will present the auditor's results. One change from the financial statements that you received in your packet that has happened subsequent to you receiving that packet is the breakout of our grant fund. That grant fund was previously in the draft that you have captured in a non-major category, and because of the balances and the receipt of those CARES funding, the ending balance was considered to be major. So it doesn't change the ending result of any of the balance sheet or income statement. It's just whether it's big and has to be broken out separately, or if it's small and needs to be captured in a non-major, like all other fund type category. So I wanted to call your attention to that. After Danny concludes with his presentation, we are happy to answer any questions that you might have. I was like, where is it?
Mr. Martinez, just name and address, please.
Danny Martinez, 5827 Maple Shade Lane, Dallas, Texas, 75252. I paused there because I've been to Dallas for 2 years, so I'm making sure I got that right and memorized it. But thank you all, Mr. Mayor, City Council, for having us this evening. As Sherelle said, my name is Danny Martinez. I'm a managing director with BKD out of our Dallas, Texas office, so we're right there on the tollway and Spring Valley, so pretty close to here. I'm going to be presenting over the next 10-15 minutes or so the audit results for the financial audit for the year ended 9/30/2020. So that, if you're thinking about it, that is 10/1/2019 to 9/30/2020. An easy way to think about what you're seeing here is half of the year pre-COVID, half of the year post-COVID, and interestingly enough, today is actually the 1-year anniversary of the 15 days to slow the spread, and I feel like we may have felt like we aged more than a year in that time, but just kind of set the idea of what you're seeing here is about half pre-COVID, half post-COVID. So taking a look at the agenda, this is what I'm going to be, turn back to presentation view. Oh, excuse me. There we go. The agenda, this is the items that we're going to be covering over the next 10 minutes. Audit results, some required communication, touch on any findings that we identified, some financial trends, and end with a look ahead. So cut to the chase, let's talk about the audit results. At the end of the day, why we are hired is to give an opinion on your financial statements. And what we're reporting for your financial statement is an unmodified opinion. So what does that mean? That means that your financial statements are, we're giving reasonable assurance that your financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. The reason that we say reasonable assurance and not absolute is because we perform our audit on a test basis, right? We don't look at every single transaction that the city entered into, right? We look at it based off of materiality, based off of our risk assessment, in order to be able to provide that opinion, and that is the best opinion that we can provide. In addition, the second report is a report that we're required to provide under government auditing standards. It's called the Internal Control over Financial Reporting and on Compliance and Other Matters. That's typically where you see findings that are of a level that need to be reported by government auditing standards. We have no findings that rose to that level to be reported. I do have one item that I'll share with you all a little bit later that is of a lesser degree, just to share with you all. In addition, this year, you all received enough money from the CARES Act. You expended over $750,000 in federal awards, so you are also going to have a compliance audit on those awards. The results of that audit are still pending, and we hope to conclude and complete that here within the next 30 days or so. Audit areas of emphasis. So I went through and I told you, hey, we gave you the best opinion available, but what did we actually do? What are we doing as auditors? So I like to lay out just a few things that we do. First, we look at your significant transaction cycles, so cash inflows, cash outflows, your payroll, your investing, your financing, and just to gain an understanding of how you all do business here. As Sherelle pointed out, this is our first year transitioning from Grant Thornton, and we had access to all of Grant Thornton's documentation. We still do like to get an understanding of the controls there. For your cash and investments, we confirm all your material balances. We look at your bank reconciliations. We make sure that your investments are fairly valued. On the other side, we confirm your material debt as well. Capital assets, we perform a test of your additions, your disposals, evaluate your transfers. If you have something that you're saying is construction in progress that was completed, did you all move that appropriately, those types of things. And lastly, revenue expense fluctuation. Sometimes when we get into these city audits every year, it's, year after year, you're kind of expecting the same thing. This was a different year where we really didn't know what to expect, right? What was that first 6 months of COVID with the lockdown going to do, both to your revenues and to your expenses? So we spend a little bit more time on evaluating those fluctuations, and I'll share some results related to that here in a second. This, if anything, if you're going to zone out for 2 minutes, this would be the 2 minutes. These are my required communications in accordance with auditing standards. I apologize, these 2 slides are not my choice. To make it easy for you all, on the left-hand side, you can see what we're required to communicate to you all. On the right-hand side is our response. The first one's significant estimates. That's just to say that everything in your financial statement cannot be tied straight to an invoice, straight to a bank account, right? Your allowance for doubtful accounts, you're estimating how much you're going to collect. Your depreciable lives, how long your capital assets are going to be there. That's another thing that's an estimate. So you can see some estimates there. The quality of accounting principles, you'll find that on note 1 of your financial statements, and we are reporting there's no alternative accounting treatments, nothing weird that you all do here that other cities in Texas do not do. We lay out some financial statement disclosures you may want to pay attention to there as well. From this point on, this is what I like to refer as the none or no section. Hopefully, as long as you see none or no on the right-hand side, we're good. We can kind of move on. No questions about the quality of your accounting policies, no disagreements with management, no significant issues discussed with management. Of course, as Sherelle pointed out, going through every audit is a challenge, but again, nothing that extraordinary that we need to report here, and you can see the rest of those slides there. All right, findings, the next item. I touched at the open that there were no findings required to be reported under government auditing standards. The ones that are required to be reported under government auditing standards are the first, second, and fourth bullet point. So material weakness is the highest level of finding that we may have. The significant deficiency would be the second level. Control deficiency is really the lowest level of the three. And there was one item that we identified with this. I want to make sure that I'm very clear with the condition around it, and of course you can refer to Sherelle as well. We had one item related to proper accounting for all capital asset activity. There were a couple of things from the information in the subsidiary ledgers that we got from finance to where we ended up with what's in the financial statements that needed to be modified. The first one was related to your construction in progress. There were some instances where something was completed and put into service as an asset on the books, but it was also still maintained as construction in progress. No issues with anything missing. It was just we forgot to remove it from, the city forgot to remove it from the top line of construction in progress and move it into the second bucket, so it was there twice. The second item is there was a transfer between two different types of funds in your financial statements, and in the original item that we received, the item was in both types of the financial statements, so we just needed to clean it out. In all of these instances, this is not a capital asset missing, this is not any type of misappropriation, this is receiving subsidiary information and it not being cleaned up to the level of what we present for you all to receive that award. So we have here the current status is resolved. The balances in here are resolved. Sherelle and our team actually went through and did the legwork to get it to where it needed to be after it was identified through audit procedures. All right, financial trends, and really, you know, this presentation is, you're going to get a lot more and a lot more current information from what Sherelle provides to you all quarterly and in your monthly packets, but I do want to provide to you all this 3-year trend just so you can kind of see it. And this revenue plays out similarly throughout the state of Texas. You know, if you look at other cities, you're going to see about the same trend line. Your sales tax, relatively flat, which is better than a lot of people probably expected a year ago today as far as how we were going to do and progress those last 6 months. Your property tax revenue increased, it looks like, by around 10%. And as property values maintained their balance or increased, you know, that was the result of that. Lastly, for you all, really the only tax area where you all took a hit would be in your hotel motel fund tax revenue, going from about $3 million to about 1.8. Not surprising, right? No one was staying in hotels that were not open, but that's the results of your different revenue streams there on a 3-year trend line basis. Your water and sewer fund there, you can see your operating income on the top. And keep in mind, when you're looking at this, you're looking at 9/30 dates. So 9/30/18, 9/30/19, 9/30/20. And then you can see some other results there as well. To conclude, just to give you all a quick look ahead before I open it up to questions, we have a couple auditing standards coming up that you all will need to handle in the next couple of years. Most significant of the two would be 87 leases. You're going to be putting any more leases on your books than is currently required, but this is just to say, with BKD, we got this taken care of. We're going to work with Sherelle and her team to make sure that you all have the resources to perform this accounting correctly. And lastly, the American Rescue Plan Act. I believe we're landing on ARPA is what you're going to be hearing. We had ARA, 11 years ago. They're calling this ARPA, which is the COVID relief bill that was just passed. That provides $300 billion to state and local governments. We will be holding a webinar on this in about a month, and we'll make sure that you all are up to date. But it is definitely a significant amount of money. I saw something from the National Association of Counties that says Dallas County is receiving a little more than $500 million in this funding. For reference, in the initial CARES Act, state and local governments received $150 billion. This is more than 2x that amount. With that comes compliance and regulations, and we'll make sure that you all are in the loop with the guidance and the rules behind the act once Treasury puts that out. With that, I will go ahead and pass it back over to you all for questions, and thank you for your time. Oh, actually, nope, wait, one more thing. thank you very much to Sherelle, Pamela, and the team for, we said it was a first-year audit. We lost Maeve, the controller this year that had been there forever. We had COVID, so we did this 95% remotely. Oh, and there was a blizzard about 3 weeks ago where me and Sherelle were exchanging plumber information. So all that said, we are still able to complete the audit, and I echo your thoughts about Sherelle and your team and how well they're performing for the City of Farmers Branch. So thank you guys, and thank you to Sherelle, there she is, and I appreciate it. And now I will open it up to questions.
Mr. Martinez, thank you for you and your team's effort and diligence in this process, and Sherelle and the entire team. Can't echo it enough, but always thank you for what you do for us and this whole process. But to start, I will kick it to my left. Councilmember Norwood, any questions? No questions. Okay. Councilmember Lynn.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions in looking through this, and Charles, I'll be talking to you about it on Thursday. But under the OPEB liability, as well as and that's on page 42, and then on page 45, for net pension liability, it showed that you are assuming inflation at 2.5% a year. Is that just a standard that you plug in? Because I'm not sure that we've actually hit that, but it does have an effect on the amount that we have to set aside, assuming that that is the yearly rate of inflation. And then it also assumes on page 42, anywhere from 3.5% to 11.5% for salary increases. So those are huge spans that could really affect the dollars we have to set aside.
Okay, thank you for your question, Councilmember Lynn. What you see on page 42 is the disclosure of how, when we work with a actuarial, a company that is skilled at providing that estimate. If you recall from Danny's slide, he said that that was certain estimates that management makes. So what you see on page 32 is a disclosure of the estimates that are made in the calculation of that amount. Doesn't necessarily mean that those are the actual results that we have, but as the actuaries that we work with to get that specific number, they have to presume certain things, and the actuaries that we work with in deriving that number also work with a number of other cities that kind of help to level set in terms of what specific percentages are reasonable for estimates for certain for this calculation. So this is merely a disclosure of some of the significant estimates that were made in deriving that total calculation.
Okay. And I think I'm going to wait and ask the rest of my questions to Charles, or you and Charles, rather than go into all this detail tonight. I don't want to bore everybody, so I was just curious about that.
Well, finances is my jam. I'm not bored by it, but.
Okay.
Could I make a quick comment on OPEB? The OPEB, my thought on OPEB is it really doesn't matter, because what the liability is or what the inflation index is, because the way it's structured is that the only employees that are eligible for it are those employees that were hired prior to January 1 of 2007. So what's going to happen is you're going to have a bell curve where the liability will grow, and then it's going to go to zero, because as employees come on, they won't get the benefit. So that was the reason we terminated the benefit for anyone hired after 2007, so that we would get to zero. So it was structured so that's why when I look at that, I'm going, yeah, the liability is going to grow a little bit as the boomers like myself get up there, but then it's going to plummet. So just want to make you aware that we've made sure that we structured this so that the liability and the impact to the taxpayers of Farmers Branch are protected.
Councilmember Ratana.
Yes, thank you so much. I did just have one quick question. I think you mentioned that there is a CARES audit that is pending to ensure compliance of those funds that were previously given to the city with the prior relief fund. Are we going to just get a summary of that or a presentation of sorts? Just curious about that. I think that would be pending.
Yes, so that audit is, we refer to it as the single audit. If you exceed $750,000 of annual federal funding, you are subject to having to comply with this particular single audit. We anticipate concluding that audit, as Danny mentioned, within the upcoming month. Thereafter, it'll be up to Charles and council as to whether you would like a separate presentation on that, or if that is something that we would share with you the results of that particular audit via email or other council communication. So it's a matter of, whatever your pleasure is as a group.
Sure, sounds good. Thank you so much, Sherelle.
Councilmember Driscoll. You're on mute.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Martinez, for your overview there of the budget. I also compliment Sherelle and her staff. I know that they work very hard and put in a lot of extra hours, and it's much appreciated. I didn't have any questions about the numbers and the budget. However, I did find just one error that I need to point out. On the beginning of the report on page Roman numeral 6, has a list of principal officials of the city, and under city council has obviously a predecessor, Blackson, that says District 2, see note below. I didn't see this before, I just saw it now while I was listening to Ms. Martinez, but it says down below there in the note, during this election, Mr. Mike Driscoll ran unopposed for District 2, and Robert C. Dye was reelected to serve a second term. That's just not factually correct, so that needs to be corrected. I did have an opponent, and I won the election.
Thank you. Please, thank you for that correction. And this is this is precisely why we come to council and present a draft. So you should note that that'll be updated on the final version of the financial statements.
Okay.
You have to appreciate anyone that gets into those level of footnotes.
I'm with it. I appreciate it. I want to know that I'm not developing financial statements in the dark. I want y'all to read them.
I didn't even look at this page, to be honest, when I looked at the numbers and things, it just sitting here listening to him, I just kind of was looking at it.
You said, oh, there's my name.
Well, I did have an opponent, so I wasn't running unopposed.
We'll correct that note. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, thanks. Okay, before we take any action on this, we do have one person signed up to speak. Mr. Roman.
And I'm going to expect full and detailed questions about OPEB from you. I'm teasing.
Omar Roman, 2001 Whittington Place. I actually have 2 pages of questions for you. I'm just kidding. I don't have anything to contribute at this point. I just wanted to reserve my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this item is marked for action.
You want to do it?
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 2021-020.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Norwood, second by Councilmember Lynn. Any more discussion? Councilmember Norwood.
Aye.
Councilmember Lynn.
Aye.
Councilmember Rotana.
Aye.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate all your efforts. K2, consider approving resolution number 2021-037, authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Kimberly Horn and Associates, Inc. to develop final design plans for a portion of the West Side Art Trail project and take appropriate action. The Davises will speak.
Mitzi Davis, Program Manager, Sustainability and Public Health. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm here today seeking approval for Resolution 2021-37, approving a professional services agreement with Kimberly Horn and Associates to develop plans for a portion of the West Side Art Trail. Two team members, Pat Hart and Ryan Delmont, from Kimberly Horn are here to answer any questions you may have about the scope of work. In this short presentation, I will focus on two trail segments, Area 1, the Campion Trail to Mercer Parkway, and Area 3A, Emerald Street to Denton Drive. I will highlight the trail's significance, provide an overview of the funding sources, and discuss elements driving the cost. The city strives to provide amenities that are attractive, unique, and connected, and the West Side Art Trail is no exception. In 2018, City Council approved a resolution contracting with Kimberly Horn to create a preliminary design plan. The deliverables established the alignment and 30% drawings, which brings me back today, seeking approval for the next steps of the process, developing the design plans. Okay. Why the West Side Art Trail is important. It's taken a team approach with private developers, Kimberly Horn, TxDOT, COG, Dallas County, Valwood Improvement Authority, DART, City of Irving, City of Dallas, Farmers Branch Planning, Public Works, Parks, and Sustainability to pull this project together. Trails connect people and communities in extraordinary ways. The trail is an investment where we live, work, and play, and there's value in trails. Not only will it provide multimodal options and economic benefits, it will enhance the quality of life experience. The regional trail provides a much-needed east-to-west connection, and City Council has already approved funding agreements with TxDOT and Dallas County, and the project timeline to construct this project is 3 years from the notice to proceed. This map is an overall snapshot of the funding sources associated with the entire project, from the Campion Trail in the City of Irving to the DART Rail Station in Farmers Branch. This presentation focuses on two trail segments. Area 1, the Campion Trail to Mercer Parkway on the west, and Area 3A, Emerald Street to Denton Drive underneath the I-35 corridor. With the support of the planning director and team, we have successfully worked with developers to construct portions of the trail, allowing us to maximize connectivity to new and existing trails. And at the direction of council, staff acquired external funding to offset the cost. Renee Esses, Special Projects Manager, was instrumental in acquiring the $8.9 million. The city's initial investment was $1.5 million, and that shifted to 100% design when we were approved for the construction funding. The red line on the maps have been approved for the construction with federal transportation funds. The $4.5 million is the cost to construct Area 1 and Area 3A per the funding agreement. This program follows TxDOT's design, bidding, and construction process. So August 2022 is the estimated completion date for the design plans. A key element to the Trail Master Plan's vision is providing a way to safely walk or bike underneath I-35. Emerald Street to Denton Drive is the solution. This trail segment will provide the access to safely cross under the freeway. This multimodal connection traverses through the floodplain, drainage, multiple municipalities, and in and out of TxDOT right-of-way. The floodplain map prepared by Kimberly Horn shows the extent of the floodplain and floodway boundaries that affect the project. The floodplain in the I-35 corridor encompasses an area from Valley View Lane south to I-635, and from the Medill corridor east to Denton Drive. And work impacting federal and/or regulatory lands triggers specific requirements, reviews, and approvals from various agencies, and sometimes causes delay in the process. The two green lines, Area 1 and Area 3A, on the map are proposed for design. But first, let me be clear. There isn't anything normal or standard about the West Side Trail. This project will probably be the most complicated projects in our career after talking with our consultants on some of the projects that we've worked on. Most of the elements driving the cost are not associated with your typical trail construction. We worked to include everything and looked at the worst-case scenario. The design criteria is based on TxDOT standards as well as other city or agency requirements. And much of this project pertains to being a good steward of the environment to make the trail possible. The floodplain, structural, and specialized equipment to drill and collect sample borings under the I-35 bridge are unique situations that drive the cost. Other factors include retaining walls and structural modifications to TxDOT right-of-way, impacts to federal and regulatory waters triggering compliance, and floodplain studies and modeling to evaluate the trail impact. Numerous stakeholders are involved in this project, which requires much coordination for reviews and approvals. We have an interlocal agreement with the City of Irving and letters from TxDOT supporting the project. We will continue working with a consultant and multiple cities and agencies to construct the trail. Kimberly Horn is very much in tune with the challenges of this project and has established working relationships with the agencies. The firm is qualified to perform the necessary services to complete the final design, and City Administration recommends approval of Resolution 2021-37. So with that, are there any questions?
Ms. Davis, thank you very much. Councilmember Norwood, any question?
No, ma'am.
Councilmember Lynn?
No question.
Councilmember Ratana?
No questions.
Councilmember Driscoll?
I have no questions. I'd just like to commend Ms. Davis and her staff. I know a lot of people have worked on this, and I have very good memories of very long meetings. A couple years ago when I was on the Quality of Life Committee, this is one of the long-range projects we were discussing at that time, and it's nice to see that at least it's on the horizon to coming into fruition. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. We have one individual signed up to speak, Mr. Roman. Name and address, please.
Omar Roman, 2001 Whittington Place. I think this is broken. No, I don't have anything to contribute at this point, but I'm excited about the project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. This item is marked for action.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 2021-037.
I have a motion by Councilmember Ratana,
Second?
second by Councilmember Driscoll. Any more discussion? Councilmember Norwood?
Aye.
Councilmember Lynn?
Aye.
Councilmember Ratana?
Aye.
Councilmember Driscoll?
Enthusiastic aye.
Yes in German?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah,
Perfect.
jawohl.
Danke. Okay. Motion passes unanimously. So, next is K3, consider approving resolution number 2021-039, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the third amended and restated agreement for library services with Library Systems and Services for the management of the Mansky Library and take appropriate action. Mr. Williamson.
Mayor and Council, Ben Williamson, Assistant City Manager, to present on the Mansky Library and the management of operations of the Mansky Library for your consideration. I am joined tonight by Library Systems and Services staff, including Denise Wallace, our Library Director, Todd Frager, the CEO of Library Systems and Services. So you'll have both groups to ask questions to. I'll be presenting from the city's perspective. So a little bit of background information. It's hard to believe with the history of the library that this contract has already entered its 10th year. And so a little bit more history there. But the reason for this discussion tonight is you saw the budget. We're starting to talk strategic alignment, and we're already preparing for the next budget cycle. This contract is scheduled to end unless we take action, essentially, by December 31st of this calendar year. So the purpose is to provide a pathway for action to continue this relationship if council so wishes. I'd like to start with some numbers and talk about how has the relationship gone. The best gauge for just looking at overall sentiment towards the library is we have a resident satisfaction survey that we've historically used on a biennial basis. And so you see here, good to excellent permeates the discussion. Where you see it dip a little bit was we've had a lot of discussions on the condition of the library, and it was very public discussions. So that sentiment was also reflected in the resident satisfaction survey. So when you see dips in the library and reporting and feedback on the library, it tends to be around the condition of the library, never on the level of service at the library or the staff managing the library on our behalf. Because we've had lots of discussions about the future of the library, we've had a lot more surveys that talk about what's going on at the library, the conditions of the library, an ideal library and what that looks like. And as you can see, we look at the library remodel survey, 100% of the youth respondents like the library, a 4.36 out of 5 with the library. They talk about what's going well. There's a lot of good things going on at the library, so there's not an immediate need being missed or something that the public is asking for when it comes to the service level of the staff at the library. We talk about, and again, these are from the remodel survey, so it's got that lens on it, but you look about what permeates, what makes the best case scenario for the library, it's a helpful staff. You jump back 2 slides, we're showing consistently, year to year, that that level of service exists at the library. Again, what's not exciting about the library would be an unhelpful staff. And so we're consistently getting reinforcement. The staff is doing a good job as ambassadors of the city through the contract they have with the city. Again, we're going to talk about numbers, the service levels. We've seen this on multiple cases, but the service levels keep trending and showing that the library staff is creating the value we've asked them to create in the space we provided and the collection of materials we provide access to through the city's budgeting processes. This probably looks familiar. It's a performance dashboard. This is one of the many that sits on the city's website. It's a current and live dashboard. One of the big goals of the collection in the performance area was to get 25% of the collection under 5 years of age. That was a goal for December 31st of last year, and we got there. And that was a big goal because it's talking about the age of the collection. We don't want to just have a whole bunch of books. We want to have books that are in use, and the current books, the current topics, things that people want to see. We go back to what people ask for when they talk about the library. They're talking about they still want books. Books are not going away, and that's a fundamental part of who the library is. So, for some numbers. How do we show this creates value? So I go back to the beginning, 2008, 2010. This model was presented to a council in 2016 when we did the first 5-year contract, and they got to see a similar version of this model. And any model can have different inflationary numbers put in there. I chose CPI. I used ending on January 31st, so I put full disclaimers in there. But what I did is said, if we stayed on the current path we were on, when we look at what we were paying to run the library, and I excluded certain things when it came to the building itself and maintenance on the building, because those can spike. If you use this year's budget, there would be a huge number in there because we're remodeling. There's a lot of money moving around for the physical structure of the building. And so we start with that 1.75 million average, and you just escalate up, and you start to see what it could be if we put actual expenditures in there. Because now I can say, here's what the average was before. We outsourced the management and operations of the library against the actuals. You start to see total savings. And then I compound that from year to year savings, and you could reasonably argue that there's $3.5 million in savings to the city over a 10-year period. And you can use different escalators, employee cost index, there's all types of different inflationary mechanisms you can use. What we're trying to show is that in the past 10 years, this has been a great value to the residents of Farmers Branch and saved a significant amount of money. So in this agreement, we didn't just propose an agreement that is just changing the dates from 2016 to 2021 to 2021 to the next term. So we did a lot of process and language cleanup that reflects our current processes that we have in the organization that we want to keep with. Again, looking at the history of work with this project, we thought to make this easier, extend the term to 10 years. So it does have a 10-year proposal in the contract language. The previous contract has an escalator built in based on employee cost index not to exceed 5%. That creates a swing in exposure to the city to where we don't know what our next contract is going to be until we negotiate that about this time of year, to be honest. We say, okay, what's the employee cost index been for the DFW area? Can we agree that this is the published amount? And it can go up to 5%. So this puts the escalator at 2.5%, and there's a reason for that. You start looking at the different escalations from CPI and the current contract. It got us to a good spot as we start to see the previous contract was built on ECI, which for the last 2 years was 2.9 and 2.7. So this is a better value, a more secure value, a predictable value to the city. And in your packet, you can see the whole table that shows what the full value of the contract is every fiscal year. Certain things, the library's grown in form and function. It now is an election place for the city where it hasn't been in the past. And so we've clarified how that relationship works if LS&S staff are working the election, how that all comes together to make sure we have a successful election on behalf of the City of Farmers Branch and the other layers of government as well. New is the addition of a performance report. While we do have these dashboards and performance dashboards, every year there will be an annual performance report as well to the city that we can share with everyone. Alignment to performance at BTX, that is our performance management system for how we perform and align to national standards. So those speedometers you see, the gauges you see, the charts you see, that is performance at BTX. Confirmed staffing alignment level. In the previous contract, it said staffing at an appropriate level. So we listen to the comments our residents give us. They're like, I have a concern about this relationship because of this. We align the staffing level to the Texas State Library and Archive Commission best practice for an organization of our population size, estimated at 50,000. So we can say, this is the staffing level that's in our contract that's appropriate for us at this population and this size. Future capital investment, so we need to update our self-check equipment, and it provides a pathway for a future capital investment 5 years down the road as well by LS&S in the library. I didn't identify the next capital investment that's 5 years away because I would hate to say, hey, 5 years from now, this is what the library is going to need. It creates some flexibility at a defined amount to get us there. We added Spanish proficiency staffing goal. We do have folks that do speak Spanish that currently staff the Manske Library. We put that in the contract saying this is a goal for the organization as well. We had feedback earlier tonight that, Spanish access is important, so we made sure that this is also put into the contract as a goal for the organization so we can serve our whole community. We created a pathway to adjust the hours if needed, and this is a big one because before it was defined, it's open these days at these times. We set the contract to the number of hours the library shall be open every week, but we have the ability to work together to change those hours as the needs of the community change. So if it needs to change, it can. And the biggest one is when we look at the budget. Previously, the contract was aligned to the calendar year. So we had two different amounts going in, different rates, and it changed every January 1. It just changed this past January 1 based on the previous employee cost indexed escalator. Now it will be aligned to our fiscal years, which will make it a lot simpler just for communicating how these charges work. That's one of the challenges in the past. I can show how it creates value, but the number's changing on January 1. So a lot of the themes have been already reinforced. What we're seeing is a consistent high level of service, proven savings. We're investing in the building for the future, and we want to invest in also the management and operations of it in alignment with that. So we start talking about all the investments going into the library, the solar panels, the remodel project that's currently underway, including a new makerspace that we're still learning how we're going to program as well. This creates a lot of those pathways to work with our partner and how to make sure we maximize the use of that space. There's always a termination clause in there. It is set at 90 days. So even though when you see a 10-year term, this is not tying our hands and saying we can't make changes. If something changes and this agreement isn't what's best for either party, it's a 90-day notice to termination of the agreement. And again, aligning the service levels with the facility. You have LS&S staff here. I'm here as well. Mayor and Council, do you have any questions for us?
Ben, thank you very much. Councilmember Norwood, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Councilmember Lynn.
So Ben, I have to ask just for the benefit of those that are at home, haven't seen this. Does the escalator clause that we have built as part of this contract go to employees, the vendor itself, increases to expand the collection, or a combination of all of that?
The escalator is purely for the management cost to the library, so LS&S would speak to how they would use that increase. The collection budget has a separate line item in the budget that we can adjust as the city, and we did adjust in the past to get to that collection age goal that we were at. But more than just the collection, it also provides access to our digital resources. And then the reason we allow that to change is because those resources can substantially change, and so it gives us flexibility as a city to make sure we have the online resources that are becoming more and more popular, access and availability to those. But the escalator goes to the management cost of the library.
Okay. And as you mentioned, there was a line in here to align staffing. Are they projecting, or is anybody projecting an increase in staff to the library at this particular moment?
Not at this time, so that's why we put the minimum staffing level in there that's aligned to those standards. They're currently above that staffing level, but it creates, what is the baseline standard? Because before that didn't exist, it's just any acceptable level to manage the operation of the library. It's very subjective. This way there's a minimum standard, and there's going to be some alignment changes as well, because we're adding a new entrance, and so you can't have an entrance and not have it staffed at the bottom floor of the library. So the lower level entrant will have to have somebody down there more than not, so you can't just pull somebody away. But as we do the renovation, we're creating the workstations down there to facilitate to where it's not just a placeholder for a person to watch the door, that there truly is a workstation down there with the new layout. So the staff that's down there will have a full functional workstation with lots of space for any duties they can do, in addition to being down there to watch the library as well.
Okay. Well, thank you. As you know, as well as all of us sitting up here, people love the library and can't wait to see it open, minus the construction, of course. So, Denise, good job. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Ratana.
Yes, thank you, Ben, for the presentation, and Denise, and all the work of your staff. I did want to just point out, I applaud you all for making sure that you really recognize the different needs, especially for our monolingual communities. So I like that I saw that. Taking that one step further, I wanted to ask, as part of the contract, is there a stipulation to have some type of reevaluation as part of the contract for services based on changing demographics, changing needs, and those types of things? And from a process perspective, I know that Denise and your team do that individually, and I know that the library board also is a part of that. But I wasn't sure if there's anything of that nature tied to the contract as well, to do some type of, I don't want to say needs assessment, but some type of take some type of initiative to reevaluate some of the components and the services provided thereof based on some of those changing demographics.
So part of the contracts update is the feedback mechanisms. A big component of that is the annual report and that mechanism as well. But we really rely on the residents, the council, and the library board to give us feedback if there's changes. Besides having just kind of a stock survey, do we need to change something? As we're growing, we rely on those different information sources to give us feedback and go through the processes where it goes to the library board, goes through council, and we can shift direction appropriately. But LS&S has been very receptive to any of the changes that we've asked for without having to revert to, is it in the contract? So we have a great working relationship that's allowed us that flexibility to make progress and move forward without too many hesitations. With elections, we're nowhere in this contract, but we found a pathway forward. And anytime we're with the challenge, there's absolutely mechanisms in there. But with the annual report, the goal is to have the library board review that and provide feedback on the programs. What we don't want to do is have the same programs every year for the sake of having the same programs. We want to ask, are these the right programs? And that's a big task we're trying to move through as far as the annual report and then feedback on that report. So we're not just always doing the same thing. We're continuing to improve. So yes, but it's a process in development.
Got it. And then I would just challenge you all to really be very, and I think that was part of our, CBO 8, right? Just be more strategic and more intentional when it comes to getting certain feedback from certain groups of individuals. Just because, as you know, even with the city survey, a lot of times it's the same folks providing the same feedback. To ensure that we're able to provide more equitable services for all of those, all over the city, especially maybe even reaching out to some of the folks on our west side that may kind of feel that disconnect, to ensure that they are aware of some of those services, and especially as we kind of relaunch our quote unquote new library moving forward. So just like to throw that out there and challenge you all to, and I'm happy to assist with that, but just to really be more strategic and really focus on some of those groups to really gain some more knowledge on what those needs are from our monolingual community to some of our younger families that are coming in, but even our newer families that are coming in on the west side as well.
Absolutely. We'll definitely do that.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ben, for that presentation. And I think like everyone in the city and on council, we're looking forward to all the modernizations and changes that will be implemented very, very soon with the new look on the library. I'm glad to see that you said you've tightened up language and clarified the role of the library staff there for future elections. We've got one coming up. And also during disaster. And obviously, the polar vortex event, the deep freeze we've just gone through, I think that highlights, the unpredictable nature of natural disasters, be it floods, the freeze we had, thunderstorms, lightning, fires. And I was just thinking, since the library is literally across the street from Fire Station 1, maybe there might be an opportunity there to coordinate, the management of the library there, maybe meet with Chief Vargas, and I would be happy to get involved in that. to see if there might be some ways that we could coordinate and look at synergies. Because one thing that came out to me and all of the governors and other meetings and things that we all saw during the deep freeze event we just experienced is that all these offices of emergency management, everything was out of control. There wasn't a lot of management. It was more reaction. And I'm glad to see that there's some language in there, and I'd like to kind of flesh that out. And I'm happy to meet with you and discuss this with you in future. But I think there is a role, and as we all learned in this recent disaster, we all kind of need to count on each other and help each other out. And hopefully we don't have to face something like that again, but electrical storms and thunder and lightning, things we deal with every year. And there just might be some opportunities there for coordination and to make things better and safer for our city residents when there are emergencies. That's all I have.
Absolutely. That language for the disaster is purposeful. So for council members who didn't see that language nuance in there, we did add a clause that created a pathway for LS&S staff, if we're in a disaster, declared disaster, creates a pathway for them to help support our disaster response. And so that was a, very close proximity to the blizzard, a lot of lessons learned. There was an opportunity there to create that pathway. So we went forward, and the credit goes really to both teams here. Pete and his team and LS&S and their team spent a lot of time making sure that language was updated on all fronts. So a lot of work there to get that to this point. Okay, any other questions? And again, we do have the LS&S team here as well, if you'd like to speak to them.
Any questions for Ben, Ms. Wallace, or the LS&S management? Okay, thank you. We have one person signed up to speak, Mr. Omar Roman. Name and address, please.
Omar Roman, 2001 Whittington Place. I just had a few questions about the survey that was presented. I just was wanting a little bit of clarity on over what period of time was the survey conducted, and if this was the most recent survey the survey results for the most recent survey that was conducted, and then just an understanding of what the age demographics were of the individuals who submitted the survey, as well as whether there were any results that were not presented in the slides that were in there or in the agenda packet. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ben?
The information that was presented were from the 2019 and 2017 resident satisfaction survey. Per council's direction, we're moving away from the one-time 45-minute, very long survey to more specific spot check surveys for very specific questions and answers to give more actionable information to council. So we don't have a 2021 comprehensive survey. Instead, we're recreating our survey mechanism to make sure it's more actionable for council. So all that information is publicly available because all survey results are presented to council. So you have the resident satisfaction survey from 2019 and 2017, the Gensler surveys from 2020 as part of their projects and reports on the remodel journey that we were on. All public information, all presented to council.
Thanks. Okay. This item is marked for action.
Mayor, approve resolution number 2021-039.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rotana.
Second?
Second by Councilmember Lynn. Any more discussion? Councilmember Norwood.
Aye.
Councilmember Lynn.
Aye.
Councilmember Rotana.
Aye.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Next is K4. Consider approving resolution number 2021-040, accepting a neighborhood partnership program application for a Little Free Library in an amount not to exceed $450. City participation, and take appropriate action. Ms. Cook.
Thank you. Okay. I hope you can see my screen okay. It says Little Free Library.
I cannot see it.
Alrighty.
I cannot see it.
Can you all see it now? Okay. All right, so tonight we have an application from the Andrews family within the Neighborhood Partnership Program for what we're calling the Little Free Library in the Dutch Village neighborhood. So here is a map showing where Dutch Village is, and then this is a place mark showing where the park is within the neighborhood. So in a nutshell, here is the kit that this family is willing to purchase and put together and put the books inside and rotate the books. They walk by this site, this park every day, and the total estimated cost is $500. And the cost to the city won't exceed $450, cost to homeowner $50. They are here tonight. If you have any questions about their love of reading, why they want a library, what this is. And who are they? Okay, thank you. Whitley, if you'll come up, if both of y'all want to come up real quick. I will let them introduce themselves.
Just name and address, please.
Whitley Anders, 3016 Whitman Lane. And this is my husband, Shelby.
Yeah, Shelby Andrews, same address.
Are there any specific questions or?
I was going to say, I guess just, I know you reached out and asked about this, and we were able to find an avenue through a program that we started. I think the idea was some bigger projects in mind, but it's exciting to have a much smaller project in mind that is, something that you guys thought this library, or I guess this park needed, because we have in other places, but something you thought that would help out your kind of neighborhood in the area. And I just want to kind of hear maybe, where you dreamed it up and, going through the process just to explain if there's other people in other neighborhoods that want to utilize this same program or have other opportunities and a way to make an impact where it's a nice partnership between the neighborhoods and the city.
Yeah, we had thought that, I had thought about this. I love reading. I'm in like 2 book clubs, and so I thought it would be nice to add, we could just put it in our, in front of our house. And I actually asked about that, and that was approved. And then we had thought, well, it'd actually be better to put it in a park, because then it's more community oriented versus just come to my house for books. We pass by Dutch Village every day. There's always kids there. There's been more people walking around, and so we thought it'd be a good idea to put it there. So that's kind of where it came. Little Free Libraries online, there's a charter, so you can search where Little Free Libraries are. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we've moved to Farmers Branch many years ago. I say many, not many years ago. We got married in 2016. We moved to Farmers Branch and also lived at Mustang Station, and really learned to enjoy the community. Ended up buying a house here, and we spent a lot of time riding our bikes around the city, coming back. We missed this park, living close to Mustang Station. We missed this park, but we just thought, what's something nice we could do in our neighborhood? And Little Free Library, and then I was like, well, let's reach out to the city, see if they can help us out at all if we want to put one in the park. And we thought it was a nice way. We just didn't notice any in that area really, and thought it was something nice we could do to help lift up the neighborhood, even if just a small way.
Yeah, well, I personally feel it's a great idea. I'm glad you all reached out and we were able to find a way to collaborate. But Councilmember Lynn, any questions?
Sure, I just really wanted to say thank you. I've been involved with the Little Free Library program through my involvement with the FBI Citizens Academy. We placed a dozen of them around the Metroplex, and so this is really a good program. And what is exciting to me is that young people see the value in this, and because most of the time the requests that I get from my other organization, they're older folks, but everybody loves reading. And so I just want to say thank you all for wanting to do this and making this investment in the city.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Norwood?
No questions. Thanks for being involved.
Councilmember Ratana?
No questions. I just want to thank you as well. I love Little Free Libraries. So the fact that you're doing this for your area kids and neighbors, I think is great. So thank you so much for your spearheading this in your neighborhood.
Thank you.
Councilmember Driscoll? Any final words?
Yes, I would just like to also commend you for having the idea of proposing this and wanting to make a commitment and an improvement in your local neighborhood and in our city at large. I commend you for that. I think this is a wonderful program. I've seen it in many, many cities, large and small, and I think it's always great to promote reading and education, and it kind of helps build a little bit of a sense of community and in a small way of placemaking, you know, in individual neighborhoods to give them a little more personality. I'd just like to, you know, thank you for the effort. I think it's a great program, and I support it.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you all again.
Thank you.
We have one person signed up to speak. Mr. Roman, if you would like to speak at this time. Name and address, please.
2001 Whittington Place, Omar Roman. I don't have anything to contribute at this time, but I appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right. Well, this is marked for action.
Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2021-040.
I have a motion by Councilmember Lynn, a second by Councilmember Norwood. Any discussion? Councilmember Norwood.
Aye.
Councilmember Lynn.
Aye.
Councilmember Ratana.
Aye.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Aye.
Motion carries. Passes unanimously. Looking forward to visiting y'all's little library over there in Dutch Village. All right. We don't have any action to take out of the closed session. Seeing no more business, I will adjourn tonight's meeting at 7:56 p.m. Good night, everyone.